Welcome back, guys. Today we're talking about the upcoming stretch of races for Kubota High Limit Racing. A lot of races in a very short amount of time. So 7 races in about 11 days or so. And this is where we really get into the heart of the schedule. Obviously, we took 6 weeks off from Golden Isles until the next race coming up here on Friday at Texarkana 67 Speedway in Texarkana, Arkansas. And a lot of these tracks, I thought it'd be interesting to look at these guys that are full-timers with High Limit. Which one of them have been to these tracks? Which one of them have not been to these tracks? And I think you might find it interesting to note that not any driver on the High Limit Tour has been to every single one of these tracks. Only 2 of them have been to over half of them. So we'll get into that here in a moment. And 2 drivers have never been to a single one of these tracks. So a lot of unknown coming up here for the drivers on the High Limit Racing Tour. And, when I was with the Outlaws, it was a lot of fun whenever we go to a track where nobody had ever been there for a sprint car race. One that really sticks out in my mind as one of the best races I've ever seen was at a track that we had actually never been to before, and that was at the Rev in Mississippi. A track that there was like almost no video of it. There was never a sprint car race there. We went there with the Outlaws, and it turned out to be a great race. Nobody knew what to expect. Nobody had any expectations, and it turned out to be really awesome. So we're going to have that opportunity coming up here to see if we can repeat that with High Limit coming up in just a few days. So real quick, right off the top, wanted to mention that Corey Day and James McFadden, you'll see them at the top right of the screen here, top right of the board. None of them have ever been to, or neither of them have ever been to one of these racetracks before. So all new tracks. We kind of expected that with Corey Day. He never really ventured out too much into the Midwest. But I was kind of surprised to see that James McFadden has never ran at one of these tracks before. And I wanted to mention that these numbers or these notes here are to the best of my knowledge looking at the thirdturn.com. So if there is a driver that was at one of these tracks or something and I missed it, I'm not going to say that this is 100% accurate. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So Texarkana is the next race in Texarkana, Arkansas. And not a single driver on the full-time High Limit Tour has ever been to that racetrack. So that's one of those tracks we talked about that could potentially be a really good race. I saw a USAC sprint car race there last year, watched the highlights on Flow, and it looked like an entertaining place. One side had a wall around the outside, or one side, like turns 1 and 2 had a wall on the outside, the other side did not. So that can kind of play into some different things going on there. Cushion on the wall, maybe no cushion on the other side of the track, or a little bit smaller one. So Texarkana could be fun, especially with nobody having any notes there. Next on the schedule should be Saturday night, the night after Texarkana. That's the Texas Motor Speedway on the same property as the Texas Motor Speedway that the NASCAR series runs on, the Texas Motor Speedway dirt track. Only 3 drivers have ever been there in a sprint car, that being Brent Marks and Brenham Crouch. Those 2 guys, that just happened last weekend, so they had never been there prior to last weekend. Marks got a win, and Crouch finished 9th. And then quite a few years ago, Tyler Courtney had actually been there in a ASCS 360 car. Did not run too well. I think he was like 14th in the feature in that one, but he has been there, albeit it's been quite a long time since that race actually happened. Now, next on the schedule will be Sunday night. That'll be at the RPM Speedway in Crandall, Texas, about an hour away from that Texas Motor Speedway dirt track. And once again, none of the full-time High Limit drivers have ever been to RPM Speedway. I haven't even looked at it yet. I've never seen a video. I've never looked up a picture of it. I have no clue what it even looks like, what the size is. So we're going to be doing, obviously we're going to be doing previews and race recaps for all of these races. So we'll get into RPM here in just a few days. I'm going to put out probably all 3 of those recaps before I leave for the races here, probably on Thursday. So so Texarkana RPM Speedway, nobody on the High Limit Tour has been there. Now we get to Red Dirt Raceway, and a lot of the drivers have been there. It looks like 8 of them. So 8 of the 17 drivers have been to Red Dirt, but most of them coming in a midget. So Brenham Crouch, Chris Wyndham, Tanner Thorson, Tyler Courtney, and Spencer Baston. Those guys have all been to Red Dirt, but they had been there in a midget. I think Sunshine might have been there in a sprint car as well with the All-Stars. Him, Eliason Peck, and Zeb Wise have been there in a All-Star, 410 sprint car with the All-Star Circuit of Champions. And that one race that they were at turned out to be one of the greatest races of all time. Probably the best race of 2020 during the COVID pandemic when the All-Stars went through that thunder through the plains. That track, along with Southern Oklahoma, and I think Salina was on that list as well for that little tour. But Red Dirt Raceway, I've mentioned it a couple of times on podcasts. I mentioned it a couple of times here on this YouTube channel. This is the race I'm looking forward to the most out of any of them on the High Limit Tour, and it is the first race for the Midweek Money Series. So just 8 drivers have been to that track before, and only about 4 of them have been there in a sprint car. So the next track would be Southern Oklahoma Speedway, and so that is going to be on a Friday night, and we've only got 5 drivers that have been there before, that being Corey Eliason, Justin Peck, Zeb Wise, Brenham Crouch, and Casey Kane. Kane was there during that Thunder Through the Plains with the All-Stars, and I'm not really sure what this track looks like either. I have not seen any videos or any pictures of it, but not many of our drivers, 12 of them, have not been to Southern Oklahoma Speedway. And as you can kind of tell, there's a couple of names that have popped up a few times here, and one of them, surprisingly, is Brenham Crouch. He's already been mentioned on this list 3 times as compared to the rest of the drivers. Obviously, Crouch is from the Texas area. He did run midgets quite a bit. And I think, but this one right here, the Southern Oklahoma one for Crouch, was actually in a 305 sprint car with the Texas Sprint Series. So he has been there in a sprint car, albeit it was a 305, but he had been there before. So Peck, Eliason, Wise, and Kane, they all went there with the All-Stars in 2020. Next track will be on Saturday night, next Saturday. I don't know what the date is exactly, but not this Saturday coming up, the one after that. That is at the Salina High Bank Speedway in what is that? In that Salina, or sorry, it's like Ardmore, Oklahoma, I think is what the actual town name is. And the Outlaws went there a few years ago, and that's why you'll see names like Brad Sweet, Jacob Allen, Brent Marks, Rico Abreu, Corey Eliason, and Parker Price Miller. All of those guys, 6 of them have been to Salina. That leaves, let me do some quick math, 11 drivers that have never been to Salina High Banks that are running full time with the high limit sprint cars. Now, Brad Sweet, he's only on this list twice, I believe. Yes, he's only on there 2 times. So Sweet comes into this next stretch second in points, has not ran any races between Golden Isles and Texarkana, and he's only ran 2 of the tracks over the next 7. So I'm going to be curious to see what Brad Sweet will do here over this stretch. Now, Brent Marks, Eliason, Allen, Parker Price Miller, Rico Abreu, a couple of those guys, Allen, Parker, and Rico, only been on this list 1 time so far, and that is the 3rd occasion for Corey Eliason. Now let's jump into the final race, the rescheduled date for Riverside. That is going to be on, I want to say, Tuesday, the 23rd of April. And so this track is the one that most of the drivers have been to on the High Limit Tour. Brent Marks, Brenham Crouch, Jacob Allen, Brad Sweet, Rico Abreu, Spencer Baston, Tyler Courtney, Chris Wyndham, Corey Eliason, Connor Morrell, and Tanner Thorson. Now, a lot of these guys have been to Riverside, whether that's in a midget or they've been there in a non-wing sprint car like Chris Wyndham, the midget side of things, Tanner Thorson and Brenham Crouch, and the rest of these guys. Connor Morrell, he ran there in a 600 micro sprint, but the rest of these guys like Abreu, Sweet, Allen, and Marks, they went there with the Outlaws along with Corey Eliason, I want to say back in 2018. So you add those ones up, you have 4 there, 3 there, that's 7, 10, 11. So that leaves us with 6 drivers that have never been to Riverside International Speedway. So I just thought this would be kind of interesting to look at, how many drivers have been to the tracks we're coming up. So if you were keeping track at home, Corey Eliason and Brenham Crouch, those 2 drivers have been to 4 of the 7 tracks. Everybody else, 3 or less here on the list with the high limit full-time regulars, the high rollers. So things are going to get interesting, man. I'm excited to see how it all unfolds here over the next 7 races. Really hope we can get the race in at Texarkana 67. I know from the sounds of it, they have an issue with flooding around there. The track can't take that much water. And looking at the weather, it looks like it's already rained quite a bit here throughout the week. So hopefully we can get something in there at Texarkana. But if we don't, I'm pretty sure Texas Motor Speedway is looking pretty good over there at the dirt track at Texas. So also wanted to mention before I go, I did just order a new microphone that plugs into my phone and it sits on my shirt. So that will improve the audio hopefully for these videos. And my girlfriend actually ordered me a new light for these videos as well. So trying to improve the production quality here a little bit for these. Now, as far as the editing goes, I don't know how to edit. I do all of these in one take and pray that everything comes out nice. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and we will see you later on this week. We're going to do our previews for the next 3 races, that being Texarkana, Texas, and RPM Speedway. We'll see you guys in those videos. Don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. It is free. If you have a little change sitting around, don't be afraid to hit the join button down there and be a channel member. Hit the like button, comment down below. Which one of these tracks are you most excited for? Which ones are you going to? I want to hear about it down in the comment section below. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.